The Lord of the Rings, The Rings of Power, wrapped up its first season with an action-packed finale. Now we're days away from season 2, so we thought it only right to go over all the plot threads that were moved neatly into place, ready for the new episodes. Plus, we've got a look ahead at what could happen in The Rings of Power season 2.
What will they do when you tell them that you are my ally? When you tell them that Sauron lives?
Sauron was at last confirmed to be Halbrand. The last episode saw Galadriel arrive with an ailing Halbrand at the elven smith city of Eregion, asking for their help in healing him. Meanwhile, Elrond spoke with High King Gal-Galad and Lord Celebrimbor, as it was clear that the dwarves will give no more mithril to them, but they resolve to use what they can in some way. The elven smiths struggled to manipulate or make use of the small amount of mithril they had until a recovering Halbrand recommended combining it with other elements, like elven gold and silver, to strengthen it. Celebrimbor then spoke of this plan with the High King and Galadriel, with Elrond suggesting to combine these materials to form an object, a crown. In the aftermath, Celebrimbor noted to Galadriel that this object could craft a power not of the flesh, but in the unseen world and over Middle-earth. These words reminded Galadriel of what Adar had said to her of Sauron's plans, and she became suspicious that Celebrimbor had heard this from Halbrand, but he didn't recall. Asking the scholars, Galadriel wanted records of the lineage of the kings of the Southlands. By the river, an excited Halbrand visited Galadriel to discuss the latest developments, but she called him out on his lies. The line of the kings of the Southlands was broken and had died out, so Halbrand was not who he said he was. It was then that Halbrand confirmed what Galadriel had feared. He had many names, but one of them was Sauron. Showrunners J.D. Payne and Patrick McKay revealed that Halbrand was always intended to be Sauron. That character was always Sauron from the very beginning. It was one of the initial sparks and ideas, and in our opinion, right or wrong, is that Galadriel talks about Sauron in the books in a way that indicates she knew him, maybe really well. For instance, she says she knows the Dark Lord, she perceived the Dark Lord, and knows his mind. He's not just some eye in the sky who's looking at her from afar, there's a relationship. And so we said, how could you have a relationship between the Dark Lord and Galadriel in a way that really lets them get to an interesting place? So if she knew it was him from the beginning, she would obviously reject him out of hand. But what if she had this history? Because we know from Tolkien's lore that he was responsible for her brother's death, and what would that mean to her? Additionally, the writers liked the idea of Sauron believing himself to be committing heroic deeds. McKay added 2 other things to add to that. There was this whole idea from Tolkien's letters and other writings where he talks about how Sauron wasn't evil in the beginning. That's Elrond saying that in the book. Nothing is evil in the beginning, not even Sauron was so. Immediately we're thinking about Breaking Bad and we're thinking about Tony Soprano. These characters who are these enormous, larger-than-life modern villains but have this other side and kind of go back and forth. Do I hate them? Do I love them? Are they seducing me? And I shouldn't trust them, and we thought that was really rich terrain. And then there's the Tolkien idea of chance meetings. That is a thing throughout his books, and he's obsessed with over and over again. The chance meetings are preordained in Middle-earth. The idea of, my God, what if Sauron is in a place where he's sort of repentant and lost, and Galadriel is in a place where she's desperate and obsessed? What might happen?
I have been awake since before the breaking of the first silence. I have had many names.
What are the 3 rings? After relaying what has occurred to Celebrimbor and Elrond, the trio agrees to make objects from mithril, elven gold, and silver from Valinor using Galadriel's dagger, which once belonged to her brother Finrod. They agree that 3 objects need to be made, as 1 object can be corrupted and 2 can be divided. Together with precious elven jewels from Valinor, there was then crafted the 3 elven rings of power. In the works of Tolkien, the 3 rings for the elven kings under the sky are the first of the rings of power to be created. The one with the red ruby stone represents the element of fire and is dubbed Narya. In Tolkien's works, it is initially carried by High King Gil-galad before being transferred to an elf named Círdan, and then to the wizard Gandalf. The ring with the blue sapphire stone represents the element of water and is dubbed Vilya. In Tolkien's works, it is initially carried by High King Gil-galad before being possessed by Elrond. Finally, the ring with the white, clear adamant stone represents the element of air and is dubbed Nenya. This ring has only ever solely belonged to Galadriel. We can expect further rings to be introduced in future seasons, as confirmed by showrunners J.D. Payne and Patrick McKay. The show's title suggests that these rings are important, and I think we like the idea of each set of rings potentially having its story in each of these worlds. Payne added, there's a backdoor to evil, because once Sauron makes his 1 ring, it controls them all, even though he never touched the 3 other rings, so they're not explicitly evil. It's sort of like the Y2K virus, where it's this backdoor that's kind of built into them. And once this ring is destroyed, the rings lose their potency in the Third Age, so it's a complex interconnection. McKay confirmed the 2nd season will now focus a lot more on the rings. He said, "The second season is much more about the rings, and there's a song at the end by Fiona Apple, which is like a crazy dream come true. There's 3, and there's 7. Why would the dwarves be more desperate for more rings, and how do they get seduced? How do they get fooled?" The showrunners confirmed that the second season will introduce the elf Círdan, so we can expect him to be awarded the Ring of Narnia. In Tolkien's works, Círdan is one of the oldest elves on Middle-earth and is Lord of the Grey Havens. What happened in Númenor? The future of Númenor is likely going to be a big part of Season 2 going forward. An ailing King Tar Palantir was cared for by attendants and watched over by the Chancellor Pharazôn, who ordered members of the Builders Guild to sit with the monarch and make designs for a monument in his honour. Elendil's daughter, Arianne, who had been against the expedition to Middle-earth, sat with the king when he began speaking to her as if she were his daughter, Queen Regent Miriel. The king warned her of the importance of Númenor to return to its faithful ways of elven kinship and reverence to Valinor if they hoped to survive, before he directed her to the upstairs of the tower, but warned her not to look for too long there. Meanwhile, on the ship back to Númenor from Middle-earth, Elendil went down from the deck and found Queen Regent Miriel practicing her walk while she now deals with being blind. He reflected on what's occurred and what's been lost, with Elendil still mourning his son Isildur, who he believes is dead. However, fans of Tolkien's lore will be more than aware of the importance of Isildur going ahead, so rest assured, the father and son will be reunited down the line. The ship then pulled into the harbour of Númenor, but Elendil was shocked by the sight of black flags indicating the death of the king, as a confused Miriel asks what has happened. Elendil and Miriel will likely represent the faithful side of the island kingdom's culture, wishing to unite with elvish traditions and spirituality, while the pragmatic Pharazôn is not so inclined. What happened with the Stranger, the Dweller, and the Harfoots? The Stranger continued to make his journey to find a constellation of stars when he was surprised by the arrival of the Dweller, the Nomad, and the Ascetic. The trio then bowed down to the Stranger and referred to him as Sauron. As the confused Stranger began to use his powers around him, the trio subdued him with sorcery as they confirmed that his memories will return in time and that they will take him to the east, where they're from and where he can see his stars, the land of Rhûn. Traditionally, in Tolkien's works, Rhûn was known for containing men known as Easterlings, who came under the dominion of first Morgoth and then Sauron. During the Third Age, 3 wizards went to visit the realm, Saruman the White and the 2 blue wizards named Annatar and Pallando. After the Stranger was tied down, the Harfoot group of Nori Brandyfoot, Poppy Proudfellow, Sadok Burrows and Margot Brandyfoot distracted the trio to try and rescue their friend, but was surprised when the Stranger transformed into the Dweller and attacked Nori while Burrows was stabbed. In the end, the Stranger emerged from his binds to aid his Harfoot friends and battled against the Dweller, who used magic against him with her staff. However, with Nori's encouragement, the Stranger used the Dweller's staff against the trio. The Dweller then realised that he was not Sauron, but is actually one of the Istari. Using the staff and magic, the Stranger vanquished the trio, reducing them to skeletal spirits before they were seemingly destroyed. Nori was grateful for the Stranger's help, as they all tended to Sadok, who revealed he would succumb to his wounds and join his late wife as the sun rose. In the aftermath, Nori, Poppy and Margot returned to the Harfoot camp, and Sadok was mourned. Nori noted that the Stranger was called an Astari, and he revealed in their tongue it means wise one or wizard. So afterwards, with the encouragement and blessings of her family and friends, Nori set off with the Stranger on his journey to the east. So, while we didn't get a final identification of who the Stranger is, we do know that he is indeed a wizard. In Tolkien's lore, the Astari were angelic beings who took human form and were sent to Middle-earth by the godlike beings known as the Valar. 5 are introduced in the literature, the aforementioned 2 blue wizards and Saruman the White, plus Gandalf the Grey and Radagast the Brown, so the potential for the Stranger to be the iconic Gandalf remains intact.
In your tongue, that means wise one. Or wizard.
The Siege of Eregion. Amazon has released some epic new footage confirming that a fan favourite battle will take place in Season 2, the Siege of Eregion. Without spoiling too much, the brutal Siege of Eregion is a deadly battle between Sauron and the elves of Eregion during the Second Age. Season 1 of The Rings of Power faced some criticism for not including a huge amount of action, instead focusing on the rich world building and introducing us to a whole host of complex characters, but it looks like Season 2 is about to more than make up for that. It was also confirmed that Season 2 will introduce viewers to cult character Tom Bombadil, played by Rory Kinnear, and it's been generating plenty of hype. Bombadil is a mysterious woodland-dwelling character who appears in J.R.R. Tolkien's novel, but the name likely won't ring any bells for anyone who hasn't read the book, given that he was cut from the Peter Jackson movies. It's said that he wasn't in prior adaptations because he's an anti-dramatic character. He's not a character who has a particularly strong agenda. He doesn't participate in any of the drama. However, something to note about Tom is that he does have a huge amount of knowledge, things that could be very useful to our characters going forward.
Betimes, our paths are laid before us by powers greater than our own. In those moments, it's our task to make our feet go where our hearts wish not to tread.
So that's some of the key points you need to know ahead of The Rings of Power Season 2. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more on The Rings of Power.